over to you, Madam President, to open the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Before we start, I know some of you probably saw each other before, but I just want to take this time to officially wish everyone Happy New Year. You probably wondering what date it is and still wishing, but again, just to acknowledge and some of you as well celebrating the Lunar New Year. It's a 2-year celebration, so Happy New Year to one and all. And I again, for 2023, I think we got a lot of work to do, and as we continue doing these, doing our meeting, I'm hoping that we are also looking forward for 2023 as a special year for us to do great things and just mobilize and develop new leaders for this year to take on the fight that's ahead of us. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Before we go any further, I am going to call on Comrade Abdi to read the harassment report. Over to you.
Comrade Chinke, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind reading it. So good evening, comrades, on this very cold night. So our harassment statement: mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are strongly held principles of our trade union movement. We will neither condone nor tolerate harassing or discriminatory behavior that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment and undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual. An injury to one is an injury to all. Speech or conduct which is racist, sexist, homophobic, or discriminatory in any way is unacceptable to trade unionists and only serves to divide us. Our policies and practice must reflect this commitment to equality as we work together for justice and dignity in our workplace, our unions, and our communities. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. So just to check if we have someone for the land acknowledgement.
I can read it. I thought someone else was, but not a problem.
Thank you.
I don't want to eat anyone's lunch. Anyway, good evening all. We are meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, which was subject to the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Thank you, and let's have a great meeting this evening.
Thank you very much, Chef. Okay, and before we go any further, I'd like to check to see if we have any first-time delegates. Is there any first-time delegates? Please raise your hand. You could use a signal. So I see Rob. Rob, could you tell us tell us your union and I see.
Okay, my name is Rob. I'm from COPW, Canadian Union of Postal Workers, Scarborough Local 602.
Okay.
And I am a letter carrier.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I see, I think it's
Jan Forrest. Yes.
Jan. Okay.
Hi everyone. For some reason my camera isn't working, so I apologize that I can't turn it on. My name is Jan Forrester and I'm with the York University Staff Association Union. Yes.
Okay, welcome. Is there anyone else? I don't want to miss Anyone? Just checking. Okay. Okay, so Jan and Rob, again, I hope this is not just your first and last meeting. We hope to see you to many more of these meetings. This is, as I mentioned before, a house where we come together to strategize and to, I think I would also agree to uplift each other as we take on these struggles and celebrating those victories along the way, and also as we press forward in numbers. This is where we look at our numbers as we grow as leaders, as activists in our own union and community, and not feeling alone. So I hope to see you at the other meetings.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, for sure we will. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Susan, do you want to give any more instruction for the Zoom before we move on?
Sure. Everybody's an old hand at this, but just a reminder that we do ask you to keep yourself muted unless you're going to be speaking, because it creates some background noise, and then we have to hunt around for you and figure out who's talking and click the mute button. Feel free to use the chat function to put comments in or keep in touch with issues that are going on. If you do need to raise your hand, if you're going to be speaking to a motion or something like that, please go down to your reaction function and look for the raise hand. If you simply wave your hand, we may not see you because you may be on another screen. And if you're on the phone, you can push *9 to raise your hand. When it comes to voting, it'll be available for those who are online. We don't have a voting feature for those who are on the phone. And we do ask that only delegates cast their vote on the votes that are coming up. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Okay, so next we're going to, as Susan mentioned, I believe you would have already received in your email the minutes, and we're going to call for approval of that minute. So I hope you got a chance to review the minutes before we put it up for a vote. And with that said, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a
Blair has
seconder?
moved, and I see Carol Carpenter's hand up. I don't know whether that was intended to be as a motion or a seconder.
Yes, thank you very much. My notes have us adjourning at 9:22, and I believe yours show 9 p.m. I think we tried to adjourn at 9, but we ended up going later. So I just wondered if there should be an amendment to 9:22 for the adjournment of last month. And if so, I can move if you like as well.
Okay.
Andrea will note those adjustments to the minutes of January.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so is that, who's the speaker? Is that Carol? Did you say?
Yes. Carol
Carol.
Carpenter, local 4400.
Thank you. Okay. So first, thank you for that, for making the amendment to this. Again, maybe I'll go again and ask for a motion to accept the minutes with the amendment.
Andrea, I think I did that as well. Sorry. Carol Carpenter.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All in favor, please signify. Any opposed? Okay, I'm going to take it that it's carried. Thank you. So I see Cindy have the voting on the motion up. It's a bit harder. We try to do them electronically, so it's easier for everyone. So up on the screen, we have voting on the motion.
5 seconds left, comrades. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Back to you, Madam President. We have a pass with 100%.
Thank you. Okay, so next our credential report. Comrade Gallant, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. Credential report for Thursday, February 2nd is Cup W Scarborough, 5 delegates. Operating engineers, local 793, 3 delegates. OPSU local 568, 1 delegate. And the Society of United Professionals, 7 delegates. And I so move.
Okay,
I second it. Abdi.
Comrades, you have 5 seconds left to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Madam President, back to you with 100% yes.
okay, thank you. Okay, and this time I'll call on for anyone that have strike or lockout report. Please raise your hand. Any strike or lockout report?
I scanned the other screens and I don't see anyone with their hand up.
All right. Thank you. And I again, for the beginning of February, we start off our celebration of Black History Month. And I know for sure this is very special for someone like myself in our Black community, for activists in our labor movement, and workers on a whole. Very special for us as we celebrate the gains that we make. And sometimes it's very hard as well to really look at ourselves as the leaders and the accomplishment that we make in our own communities and in our own workplace. The challenges that's ahead of us sometimes really take over everything, and it's hard for us to even pat ourselves on the back. That, you know, I know for myself, coming in this country and as a worker, and oftentimes I think we hear a lot of could someone, I think someone with their mic open, could you unmute, please? And for someone like myself who come into a workforce that always reminded of how we are coming through a revolving door, but never the opportunity to get the thanks for us being a part of building our own society and the strength that we bring to whether in our workplace. And I think sometimes within, even our own union, we spend a lot of times frustrated around the struggle, whether we're fighting around anti-racism, discrimination, and just feeling sometimes like an outsider. There are times just going along the street, bumping into someone that would look at us and say, you need to go back to where you come from. And some of us don't have where to go back to, born here or come here as a child or, whichever way that we arrive. And for many, many years, the kind of accomplishment that was made by Black people in this country. And it's just covered up. So I know in spite of all of that, I wanna just say, and just to uplift my Black sisters and brothers and comrades of this labor movement, for us to really look ahead, as to, because we do know what we've done. We know that we are the educator. We know that we are the inventor. We know that we are the healthcare provider. We know that we are everywhere when it comes to sports. We know that we build. We are everywhere in this sector. And so we just need to charge ahead and to make sure that as the next generations coming up, they're able to learn. We need to continue to be the educator, and what we are doing is continuing to tell the stories of others before us, that in spite of everything was able to leave that kind of a legacy that not only Black people can benefit, but the entire country can benefit from the kind of work that we put in, and the sweat and tears and blood into this country, that we need to uplift each others. As activists and in this labor movement, it's a reminder for us that as we take on and we pick up the torch from our other past Black leaders and activists that's gone, we need to use that opportunity that we are going in within our own labor movement in a time like this, to continue not just to remember what they have done, but to pick that up and to continue to make it even much, much better, much better, that our children, the next generation, can come and be proud and make it a little bit easier for them, because we did not just stay quiet and cover up what the work that we have done to be a part of this country and to move ahead. When we take on the fight in this labor movement, yes, without us, it's not possible. And so we got to make sure that we are proud and nothing to be ashamed of, and to speak up, own our space, own our chair in this movement. No one want to give you that chair. Take your chair, and let us continue to celebrate the gains that we make, not just February month, but throughout the year. We need to continue that. When we take on the fight in the workplace with the boss at the bargaining table, then we are not just dues paying, we are not just a number, but we need to continue doing that. And for our comrades that are standing beside, to make sure that we continue to have that voice, to give us the voice sometime. Yes, we thank you, and we wanna keep moving that way, because some things we are not able to do on our own. Some of it, there's great barriers. And with your help, we are able to do good things, not just for the Black community, but overall for all of us. Stronger collective agreement, because all of us are standing together. So for this Black History Month, I urge everyone, and I urge my Black brothers and sisters, to lift your head high. I see myself as someone coming in this country and never ever have to talk about color, and realize quickly that that's not possible. Where a day passed where someone not remind me of my color. But in spite of that, I think I was able to go further when I remember that someone made that difference for me. That was my father. Without knowing I'd be in this country, he made that possible for me to be proud of myself, to give. I don't have to receive, just to give, to be out there and be the voice for others. And I see, I remember that, and I took that with me in this country. I remember many women, Black women in the Sheraton Center where I started, standing up with me as I have this vision this passion of fighting for better things for especially Black workers that didn't have that voice or didn't, they were told you're not entitled to. But they were there with me at my back to make sure, and on my side, that when I speak up, that I have that support. And, you know, I am proud because to this day, I can look at collective agreement where we insert lots of wins that I couldn't have done it without the support of coworkers that was there to protect me as I do that. And where I am today as a Black woman who is leading this labor movement, I can't do that without you. It's not possible without you supporting me to do that. And just to be thankful for many Black sisters and brothers that allow me, those comrades that allow me to feel strong even when I'm not, you know. And there's so many that it's hard to call those names. When I look back and see as I've charged ahead and feel stronger with the messages of labor that need to go out, someone like Sister Yolanda McLean, Brother Nigel Barif, Brother Mark Brown, Brother Abdi. I'll also say Brother Chris Campbell, and so many, many more that remind me that the work need to get done. And as long as I'm pushing ahead, for sure, yes, for all of you with me, but yes, as we celebrate Black History Month, just to see and to be proud that they're right there with me to make sure that our message and our voice are there. So again, I just want to say to you that, you know, this is a great moment for us every so often for us to remind ourselves of the things that we do and what we can do. Again, ongoing, you know, for us, the labor150.ca website, again, to see profiles of courage and to take on, to talk about Black leaders ranging from the past history to present days. You can also go on and read stories of Black Canadian contributions to Toronto region and broader community, to labor and to Canadian history. We are out there, and the message is out there. Again, I'm pleased. I'm also pleased to show you another profile of courage that will be added, and that's Comrade Ainsworth Spence, that will be added onto the profile of courage. And I don't know if he's here, you know, but again, Ainsworth is a social justice healthcare capacity builder for SEIU Healthcare, and he's also on our Labor Council Executive Board. And he is a past co-chair of our Equity Committee. So if you're here, Ainsworth, you know, just keep going, and we are here all the time, and we're here with you. I also invite you to the LCS Labor Community Service and TCBN event that's happening February 16th. This is via Zoom from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's a national conversation with labor about the United Nations Decades for People of African Descent. And I'll ask Jennifer to put the link in the chat for you, you know, and please participate in it. These are really good session that's coming up, and a lot of work putting into it to make sure that these information are readily available to you, and this knowledge. Again, another event that's coming up that I'm going to invite you to, and as the Labor Council are also participating in this, we are going to invite you to the filming of the Porters on February 17th. Again, this is inspired by real event. This is a series that followed the lives of Black trained porters and their families in Canada. I think last year, again, for some of you probably participate in it along with the Labor Council. Again, and these are these are who was involved in the civil rights and labor organizing in the 1920s. Another one that I'm inviting you to is a Bridging the Gap event on February 18th. And this is called Learn Your Rights for Black Workers. And this is an in-person event from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hub Center in Scarborough. That, again, I'm going to ask Susan to put in the chat for you. And again, this is very important because we did a portion, one series of this last year in the West End, and then wanted to do this in Scarborough. And so important for Black workers, and sometimes they are not represented by a union. And sometimes it's our own union members to know their right, whether it's about voting, whether it's about standing up in their own workplace, whether it's about policing and so forth. So if you're able to come, please come out and support. And I urge you to circulate these information to members, put it up on your site, and whatever way that you can share it. These are invitations that we want to see a packed room for these sessions that workers can walk away with more information. As Black workers, how do they get to feel stronger and more confident in their workplace and also in their own community? Okay, so as I talk to you a bit about that, I also want to mention to you that there is also the story that came out today in the Toronto Star about setting up the first Black-run community center in Toronto by the Somali community. The Labour Council is proud to have given our endorsement to that, following the leadership of our CUPW comrades. And this is a segue into the troubling policy of the Ford's government. This is the right time to switch over to this conversation. So thank you for listening to me about my own view and my vision and my own thoughts about Black History Month. We are the smaller side of it. We don't have to be the movie star, but yes, we do play a role, and we make a difference. So I thank you for that. So it's the right time to segue into the troubling policy of Ford's government on healthcare in general, and in continuing to pay badly and exploited workers, and in introducing private and healthcare clinic. Is Tyler here at the moment?
I'm here, Andrea.
All right, thank you, Tyler. So welcome. So I'm gonna introduce. I know you've been pushing really hard, and I appreciate it to get here. This is one of the things I'm talking about. Like for anyone that don't know, Tyler have been in Ottawa dealing with other issues and just pressing to get here to be with us, to join us here for this. So I really appreciate it. So I will introduce you. So Tyler Downey is the Secretary Treasurer of Service Employee International Union Healthcare. And Tyler is no stranger to Labour Council, and he has come many times before to report on the challenge faced by his members working in healthcare. But Tyler deserves special mention this month as Black History Month, because I consider him to be one of those Black comrades who fight tirelessly in making this world a better place for all of us. Here is a Black leader who is wholeheartedly committed to empowering his members and all workers in their workplace. Tyler is here to speak to us this evening on the challenges that faced by healthcare workers in the face of the Ford's government privatization policy. Again, welcome, Tyler. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea, and thanks everyone. Thanks, Jennifer and Susan for inviting me on. I apologize. My notes are probably a little bit ruffled because I was on a 4 o'clock flight from Ottawa and I just landed, so I just got through the door, and so I'm a bit of a scatter right now. But I'm going to try to sort of impart a few things that I think will be helpful for folks to hear tonight. I probably won't talk a lot about what you already know, which is the damage that Ford has done and the damage that he continues to do. Really, what I want to center my time with you on is like our response, our collective response, and what that could look like, and the hope that we need to build, I think, to begin to overcome some of these challenges. And so, I'll start by saying, I feel really excited and invigorated right now because, I just left Ottawa. I was there with a bunch of our healthcare members from the Ottawa area, and we met with a number of MPs, and they shared their stories. There were Filipino members who have never shared their stories with MPs or any politicians. And sitting in the room, just seeing them open up, become emotional, and share the sacrifices that they had to make over the last few years, and being brave in that moment really provided me with hope. And it made them feel like this was their moment to say what they needed to say after so long of being neglected. And so, I'm thankful that I was able to participate in that. But here's what I think was the important part that I took away from today's exercise with our members. They need us to unite like they've never seen before. The frontline workers are looking for the answer to these disgusting policies that this Ford government continues to implement across this province. When you look at the impact of when they weren't protecting workers at the beginning of the pandemic, they did nothing but protect employers. They did nothing when it came to, protecting those on the front line who died, the PSWs, the seniors, thousands of seniors who died. What they did, they protected their corporate interests and their corporate friends. And obviously, most recently with privatization of private clinics, and we all know what the damage is going to be there. And so the question really is, what is our response? What is our response going to be to what we already know? Well, we shouldn't be surprised. I should just say that. We shouldn't be surprised with how this government is carrying on. And if we're surprised, I don't know what world you've been living in. Since 2018, they've been pretty clear on what they were going to do in the province of Ontario. So we shouldn't be surprised at all. What we should be thinking about is our response. And that's what I'm really super excited about. I seen it today and having a chance to speak with those members out there in Ottawa and members across our great union and across the province. People are ready to move. People are ready to act, and people are looking for that leadership from within their unions to send that signal that it is time to move in a different way. And that's what I really wanted to talk with folks about here today. I don't think we are going to win and overcome what this Ford government will continue to do over the next 3.5 years if we don't begin to mobilize differently. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about we got to get back into the community, door to door, day to day, talking to community members about what's really happening in this province. The Facebooks, the Zooms, and the virtual, and the virtual stuff is all great. Doing campaigns and doing the advertisements, all great stuff. But we need to complement that with like on the ground in those communities, at those local fairs and events, and talking to folks on a daily basis about what really is happening in healthcare. And that's what we're going to be doing with our members. And that's what I've been talking to about our members about. And so we've dedicated a bunch of resources from our union to do that special mobilization that we think is needed in this moment, to go back to the grassroots and talk to regular folks who are in these communities, who may not understand what the impact is going to be for them when Doug Ford privatizes work from the hospitals. They may not even understand what privatization means in general. And so how do we educate? How do we talk to folks on a real human level? And it really comes down to that door to door. And so I would just call on any leader here to really rethink how they're responding to the needs of today and how we're going to respond to what we're going to have to do to fight off Doug Ford and his government in the future. Because here's the other thing. It's not just about Doug Ford. Doug Ford is one person. And what we've seen is in the last, this last term, his MPPs got off the hook. We never really focused on making sure that those MPPs had to say something against Doug Ford's approach. And they were hidden and shielded. And so, going back into the community and organizing, I think is the way to go, and really building that strength on that grassroots level and putting pressure on these MPPs to put pressure on Ford, I think is the way to go. And I'm not saying we're not going to do the ads. I'm not saying we're not going to do the social media thing. That is all great. And we should continue to do that. We've got to get back to the place where we're hitting those doors in between campaigns and not waiting for, 2026 to come around and start to move and mobilize our folks. So, that was really my message, Andrea, to the folks here. I mean, I know you all know the impacts and the dangers of privatization. You're not a stranger to it. So I'm not going to spend time on talking about that. Really, what I wanted to do here was just talk about what I think we need to do to answer the moment that we're in. We've got 3.5 years to really make an impact. We've got some targets that we're going to hit. Our first big mobilization is going to happen on March 25th. We're going to be in 51 items across this province. We've got members lined up, we've got our executive board lined up. We are fired up and ready to go. And so I want to just encourage others on this call, get ready. OFL launched the Enough is Enough campaign recently. And so folks should just participate where you can. And let's get together in a way that we've never had before, because I think that is going to be key for us to overcome privatization. It's going to be the key for us to overcome the vision that has been created in this province. It's going to be the key for us to overcome Doug Ford and his government, the policies that they're going to continue to seek to implement. And so I'm looking forward to participating with many of you, whether you're an education worker, whether you're a grocery worker, or whether you're a trade worker or a healthcare worker. This is the moment for us to really band together. And I just want to shout out the leadership of Andrea, Susan, and Jennifer at the Labor Council and others there, because I know you're going to be front and center of this fight going forward. So I look forward to working with you also.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. With breathlessly coming out and speaking to us, we appreciate it. And I know we have another speaker that's going to come on, but just to echo what you're saying, your own message, and for all of us here that, as you say, fired up and ready to go, that's the question I think we all have to ask ourselves. Are we ready? Are we fired up and ready to go? And if we are, who else do we need to get ready? This is a call to action. We're not here trying to figure out what's the problem going to be. We already know what it is, and this is the right time for us to start organizing each other and get ready to take this on. So I thank you for your message, and hopefully at the end of this meeting and before we get to the next month meeting, we are hearing new things of our affiliates. How are they planning to go out and call for accountability and call for making sure that they're inserting themselves into all these action plan out there, because this is the time for us to be fired up. Thank you for coming, Tyler. So I see our next speaker here. I'll introduce. So welcome, Natalie. So Natalie Mara, if I didn't pronounce your name correct, I apologize. She's the Executive Director of Ontario Health Coalition, which works vigorously to protect public health care for all. If you haven't met Natalie yet, and if you haven't heard her speak yet, you're in for a treat. She makes these issues clear as a daylight and in force to be a force to be reckoned with. And I'll just turn it over to you, Natalie. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And Tyler, I was listening to you. I was just cheering in my chair, exactly, we're thinking the same thing. We have to step up or we're going to lose it. And that's what I wanted to talk with you about tonight, and some ways that we can do that. But also, just because it's Black History Month, I didn't want to sort of gloss through that and launch into this. So if it's okay, I spent a week in the hospital in the cardiac care unit at Mount Sinai, just as the pandemic was starting. And my experience there was both amazing and horrifying. The care there is stellar, among the best in the world. My family is half from India, half from Wales. I've lived around the world. And honestly, it is on par or better than, anywhere in the world. Amazing. But the racism that I saw day in and day out, directed at the nurses and the health professionals by the patients, was staggering. It was horrific. I, am embarrassed to say, I hear from healthcare workers about it, but I hadn't seen in a, lived experience for a week, the extent to which outright harassment, abusive language, racism, even violence racially directed and sexually directed violence against the healthcare workers was a daily occurrence, even an hourly occurrence on the wards. And there have been a number of major reports that have come out now over the last couple of years about this. But it is, to our peril that we don't hear and in all of our work reflect the demand for safety, for basic human rights, for treatment that, that is beyond, is acceptable in a workplace, in our public services and our hospitals. I just wanted to say that. I hope you don't mind. In the pandemic, we saw the disproportionate rate of death among healthcare workers for Black and racialized healthcare workers. Almost all of the healthcare workers who died in long-term care and home care and community care were racialized or Black workers. In the rollout of the vaccines, which went first to the wealthy white neighborhoods. And only after that, even though ground zero for the pandemic for most of it has been Brampton and Peel, only after that to racialized communities, lower income communities, Black communities, and so on. The principles, the foundational principles of public health care, of equity, of social inclusion, of compassion, of social solidarity are the foundational principles on which our health system is supposed to be founded. We have a long way to go to have the practice of healthcare in this province, in this country, reflect in a very real and holistic way those values. So I hope you don't mind. I wanted to lend my voice to really pausing to recognize the current situation across our healthcare system. And when we debate about public versus private healthcare, make no mistake, that debate is fundamentally about whether you believe in equity or you don't. It's fundamentally about whether we provide services based on human need or whether we provide them based on greed and profiteering from the providers of those services. The Mike Harris government privatized home care. Frankly, it's been a disaster ever since. They privatized long-term care, and we all saw in stark relief the suffering that rolled out across our long-term care system in the pandemic as a result of the majority for-profit privatization of our long-term care services. Now the Ford government is coming for the hospitals. They announced on January 16th, in their words, a plan to significantly expand the for-profit privatization of our hospital surgeries and diagnostics. That means taking the surgeries and diagnostics from our public hospitals and transferring them over to private for-profit clinics and hospitals. The volumes that they're talking about are massive. Even in the first announcement, it's tens of thousands of surgeries and diagnostic tests. Ford said that their government's assessment is that 50% of the surgeries that we now provide are easy and therefore of the ilk that could be transferred to private for-profit facilities. That would devastate local public hospitals across the province. It would transfer the ownership to private for-profit companies that already, where they exist, routinely extra bill patients thousands of dollars for needed tests and surgeries, upsell all kinds of medically unnecessary tests, lenses, cataract lenses, all kinds of junk that you don't actually need to mostly elderly people, people on fixed incomes who are least able to pay. It is already, we have been collecting stories from patients about what they're being extra billed for, what they're being charged for or sold in the private clinics. It is the Wild West out there. I've done this for 27 years. We've called every private clinic across Ontario and across the country 5 times. And we caught the majority of them, not a small portion, the majority of them, extra billing patients, outrageous prices, 10 times the cost for shoulder surgery, 4 times the cost for an MRI, 4 times the cost for cataract surgery, thousands of dollars for needed medical care. Under the Canada Health Act, no patient is to be charged for medically necessary hospital or physician care. That's what we won when we won public Medicare in this country. Nobody is supposed to be facing financial burden at the point when they're elderly, when they're sick, when they're least able to pay. The private clinics pose an existential threat to the future of single-tier Medicare. They pose an existential threat to the principle of equity in access to healthcare services, the idea that we should have access to services based on our medical need and not how wealthy we are. We are mounting the fight back of our lives to stop the Ford government from privatizing the hospitals. And what it's going to look like very briefly in my last 30 seconds here, we'll be holding a province-wide referendum. These services belong to us. In every community for the last 100 years, we have funded, we've donated, we've volunteered, we've built our local hospital system across the province. Virtually every hospital, and certainly every hospital in Toronto and the GTA, has operating rooms that are closed for days or weeks or months or even permanently because of underfunding. We fund our hospitals at the lowest rate in the country. We've closed more hospital beds than any other province in Canada. We have the fewest hospital beds left, the fewest nurses per patient in the OECD. So every quote unquote developed nation, only Mexico and Chile have fewer hospital beds left than Ontario does. The government has chosen not to fund our public hospitals, not to address the staffing crisis in the public hospitals, and instead shunt tens of millions of dollars so far and going up every month to for-profits to take their services away. And we can't let them do it. It's stealing from the public to hand over to their buddies in private for-profit corporations. So, we're building protests, and we'll do that at February 21st. The legislature reconvenes. They're going to bring in legislation to facilitate this, even though it's already underway. We'll organize protests and so on. But to get what Tyler was talking about, we need to do deep outreach into the community. We need to educate and mobilize Ontarians. We need to make their opposition to this, which we know is overwhelming. We need to make it visible in ways that cannot be ignored. And so we're asking people, can you join us? It will be through May, workplace votes in every workplace that we can. The Toronto Health Coalition will be working with us to get ballot boxes and ballots out to everybody. Can we do on the street votes at the end of May, the last weekend in May, Friday and Saturday? We're aiming to do this in towns and cities across Ontario. We're aiming to get 1 million votes to stop the privatization of the hospitals. We can actually do that, and that would shake any government. And so we're asking for your help and support with that over the next 4 months as we move towards really being on the street, going door to door with leaflets, signing up volunteers, holding voting stations outside of local corner stores and coffee stores and drug stores and busy parts of the community, and then organizing workplace votes, online voting, mail-in ballots, and so on and so forth, so we can build towards 1 million person vote to stop this. I'll end here. Sorry, I hope I haven't taken too long. Carolyn Egan is here, and she's got the date of the next Toronto GTA Health Coalition meeting for people who are interested. And just in the meantime, I'll just put in the chat a link. Anyone who would like can sign up to be a Medicare defender, and then we'll be mobilizing that whole group of people to move forward with this in Toronto and the GTA and across our province. Thank you very much, Andrea.
Okay, thank you very much, Natalie. So what we're going to ask Jennifer to lead the phones up, and again to send that message to your MPP that we want this privatization to stop. So I'll turn over to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Andrea. Hands up here for all those who have participated in a phones app before. Just want to see an amazing array of hands. I think we've done it at past delegates meeting. I won't take a lot of time. I want to give thanks to Yusapui for doing the legwork on this phones app. I've just borrowed content that they've created to do this. And so hopefully we can just maybe call 1 MPP or maybe 2 if we're very ambitious. And then I'll pass it back to the regular business of the meeting. But we really wanted to put a stop to the privatization of healthcare. And so basically what we're going to do is just for everybody to understand, I'll make this really brief. Our healthcare system is at a brink. There's over 2 million Ontarians who don't have a family doctor. Wait times, I'm sure you've all heard, don't get sick. This is not the time to get sick. Wait periods at emergency waiting rooms are super long. People can't get routine surgeries. And the whole reason for all this is that a provincial government led by the Ford and the Conservatives have been intentionally, systematically underfunding healthcare so that they can come years later and offer privatization as a solution. And so what our task is tonight is to call those who are responsible. If their mailbox is full, we will email them. And if you do both, that's even better. They need to hear from us. So we're going to ask them to make the choice to put money into public healthcare in public hands. No private, surgeries, nothing like that. So we're going to call these ministers. We're going to call your Conservative MPP if that's applicable. If you live in a riding that is not a Conservative MPP, just call the people who are on the slides. And I'm going to ask that I'll put the link to this phones app into the chat afterwards. I'm going to ask that maybe you guys take 5 minutes at your next local meeting to do a phones app with your members so that we can get people all around Ontario, at least Southern Ontario, to call MPPs and make sure that they hear us, that we don't want this to happen. Just really quickly, these are the 4 numbers. Just pick one of the 4. We can't do all 4 tonight because we're short on time. But I'll put this in the chat and you can call these folks at your leisure after the delegates meeting or maybe even tomorrow. Basically, you say, my name is Jennifer and I'm calling from, well, I have an NDP for my writing, so I won't say my writing. Ontario continues to have the lowest healthcare funding per capita, the lowest hospital funding, fewest hospital beds, and fewest nurses in the country. As a result, we have a healthcare crisis. I don't support the government's plans to channel public funds to for-profit private clinics. I won't read the rest, but I'm just worried you might not be able to see it. I tried to put it as big as font as possible. So why don't we just all mute ourselves, take out our cell phones and do this together. I'll set a timer for 3 minutes and let's see how far we can get with 3 minutes, okay? And maybe Cindy, you can put some screenshots on social media of our action. Thanks.
Oh my God, you can actually this out, please.
Okay, I made that one phone call. Hopefully you also made one phone call. If you want to make more phone calls, I'll leave this link to this slide into the chat. The last slide is just basically to show you. You could also email the Premier, the ministers, and your MPP, and also participate in the Lead Now petitions. Encourage everyone you know to do the same. A draft of the email is right here for you. You could always copy and paste it and put it into emails. Thanks for indulging in a phone zap, and hopefully with more and more mobilizing across the province, we can fight back this massive privatization effort by the Ford Conservatives. Over to you, Madam President. I think you're on mute though, Madam President.
Sorry about that. Okay, so did everybody get to make their calls? All right. Okay, and I believe Jennifer also shared the email address for anyone else who would like to continue sending the message. So that's great. Thanks again, Jennifer. All right, so we also, our next speaker that's here, already here. So now I'm gonna welcome Councillor Alejandra Bravo and to thank her for joining us tonight. And now we want to welcome Alejandra and to thank her. Alejandra is one of the many council winners in the last year municipal election that we were proud to endorse. For anyone who was on the trail with Alejandra, it's a very, very exciting moment for us. So welcome. as member of the Budget Committee and Council, she will speak to us about the city budget process. So I'm going to turn it over at this moment to Councillor Alondra Brava. Welcome again. Over to you,
much. I'm
Alondra.
so happy to be here with you. What the Ford government is doing in healthcare is a piece of the big puzzle, and another piece of the puzzle is what's happening with municipalities. I know that you are aware that Doug Ford has changed the rules of how we make decisions in municipalities everywhere in every council. You know that, in fact, now there are these strong mayor powers that give the power to the mayor to implement the decisions that Doug Ford wants. So we, in fact, have a weak mayor and a much stronger premier with an agenda that's bad for cities, it's bad for communities, it's bad for the environment. One of the first things that I found, 2 days into this job, is I got a call from the Toronto Star saying, "What do you think about this new power that the mayor of Toronto is going to have?" Well, not only can he command the budget process, appoint and fire senior staff, he's also requested and has been given the power to rule over city council with 1/3 of the votes. I'd like to know what place in the world is, whether it's a union or a not-for-profit organization or any legislature, would make a decisions with a minority. It doesn't exist. It's unique to Toronto, and this is the flavor of what we've been dealing with at the city. In the budget committee, we were in a very fast process in which we were presented with a staff staff vision, but only after the mayor made his first 3 announcements. And his announcements, he talked about increasing the police budget. He talked about making some other changes, but what we know is coming is massive cuts. Along with an increase to the police budget, cuts to TTC service, which is of huge concern to people, and cuts to community-based services. There's so many places in which we're making the wrong choices. I was really happy to join with all of the newly elected councillors to send a letter out to the mayor saying, please choose investment in people and services over enforcement. He didn't listen to our advice. He tabled a budget. Through the budget committee, I was able to sit through and ask division heads, ask the heads of agencies about what was being proposed. And, one very specific example I'll give you, we were told that there would be service cuts to Toronto, to TTC. At the time, we asked, well, what routes, what service hours are we talking about? We never got that information. The budget wrapped up at the end of January, and we still don't have that information, because the centralization of power in the mayor's office means that he's making decisions, not just without the public, not just without workers, but certainly without city councillors. And the situation that people are facing right now with the explosion in homelessness and the vulnerability of people who are losing their housing, including people that work full time, people that just can't afford their rent and are being evicted or rent evicted, the situation of young people who need violence prevention and support and mental health supports and across the general population, a cut to the community-based organizations that are actually on the front line of dealing with all of these challenges. You spend $1 in a community-based organization and that unlocks provincial grants and all the donations that come with it. This is just bad decision-making. The massive investment in policing doesn't come with any guarantees that 911 times are going to be, come down off 20 minutes. It's just so ideologically committed to enforcement over supports for people, the supports that we know we need. One of the amazing things that happened through this process is I got to listen to, about 150 out of 230 deputations. And with one voice in a majority, people said, what we want is investment on TTC and in every aspect of life. A less service equals less safety. We want that. We don't want that decision to go ahead. We need to have the community-based investments, and we know that there are alternatives to just, putting police in every public space when tensions are high. There's all kinds of crisis response, innovations that are being done, in good work that's being done in the city of Toronto, but we don't see support for that. I moved a motion at budget, which I was surprised passed unanimously, which called for this very thing. And the budget is actually advice to the mayor, because as a member of the budget committee, our vote doesn't count. We can only give advice to the mayor. The advice that I put forward, and which was supported by all the members, which was get the balance right, invest in climate action, invest in transit, invest in crisis response, invest in shelter support and housing and in affordable housing and things that people need. I think that the reason that we are at the place that we are, where you see that massive amounts of support, concerns around racism, concerns around homelessness, concerns around the quality of life for workers in the city, is social movements. Because we've done such a good job collectively, we've changed the conversation. Do you remember when Rob Ford and Doug Ford said it's just a gravy train and we don't, the city was just spending? Well, people now realize that the city needs revenue. That's a massive shift. The fact that we can have a conversation about how we can't police our way out of poverty and inequality in the city, that's a massive shift that we can all take credit for collectively. And I think one thing that's really powerful to see is that in so many previous years, right-wing politicians have said, you know who's at fault? It's those pesky workers, it's unions. But nobody believes that anymore. And in fact, one of the most credible voices right now in shaping the debate in the city have been the very civic workers who, I see some of them are here, who are on the front line of confronting these crises of inequality. I think about Brandon Haynes at the Library Workers Union, and I think about Amalgamated Transit Union 113, and with that strong voice, the way that Marvin has been able to talk about the need for more safety equaling more service. Whether it's TTC Riders or Progress Toronto, Toronto Environmental Alliance, and all the community-based organizations, we've supported each other's demands. And I think that what we're going to see next is continuing to ask questions. We have a council meeting next week in which we're going to be talking about important things like the crisis of homelessness and the need to have warming centers open. I've been really happy to work with my colleagues on Board of Health to advance that. The people that you endorse to be your champions are doing the work. And I think that we have to recognize that we are so much stronger when we're accountable to a base of people, the people that elected us in our wards, but also the bigger movement that supports us and sustains us and gives us the political and moral guidance that we need to make better choices and to be brave in the face of a lot of criticism. Because just recently, we made a statement collectively asking questions about what the deployment of officers would cost the TTC, where the money would come from, how that would impact service when we know that about 100 positions are going to be cut on TTC of frontline workers. The mayor answered that we were playing politics, but he's got that wrong, because it's our duty, it's our responsibility to ask questions, to demand accountability, and to speak for our constituents and the people that we serve. And so on February 14th, it might change to the 13th or the 15th. They're changing the council date. It's a really important time to stand together and to call for the more fair, more equitable, more just city that we need, and to make different choices. I think it's time to escalate the pressure, and you can count on those of us that are on your side and with you to continue to put the pressure on. I don't know if anybody has questions, but I just really wanted to say that I'm really proud to stand here with you, and your moral and political voice and leadership are making a massive difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing those insights with us. This is very important. And with all that said, I'm going to turn over to Skylar, and Skylar is going to talk to us a little bit more about how we can start getting organized to organize the kind of organizing that we need to do around this budget. So I'll turn over to you, Skylar. Sorry.
Thanks, Andrea. I think we're coming down to something here. So yeah, my thanks as well to Councillor Bravo for coming to speak to everyone. I think that it's just really amazing what can be done when we work together on the inside and on the outside, pressuring from labor, pressuring from community, and using the power that we have inside the system. And it's not an accident that the messaging is united. So with that being said, I just wanted to, let me think, I have to make sure my screen is on the right thing right now. So we've been working with other community organizations to put together a campaign that includes many different moving parts. You're going to see kind of like the raw version of our campaign right now, and I'll point out some of the details, but I'm going to show you I'm going to share my screen so you can see. So not everything is completely set in stone. Some of these things are moving parts, but I'll let you have a look here. Let's see if I can present. Okay. All right, so today is the 2nd. The mayor's budget was released yesterday. That's the pink, and the final vote. And just to be clear, I think Alejandra said this, but the councillors are not voting on the budget. They are voting on amendments to the budget, and that is taking place as of right now. It's set for the 14th, but again, it could be the 13th or the 15th, which will totally mess with our campaign schedule. So we've been coordinating actions along with other community organizations. You can see that we've got a number of things going on. There's community outreach, there's trainings, there's petitions, there's other actions or rallies, there's media activities. Some of these things have already changed since we created this. This ATU and 4948 op-ed is not an op-ed anymore. It's being released, I think, probably early tomorrow, but you'll see that very soon. And that was an incredible piece of work that happened between Brandon and Marvin. Thank you to you both. There's some petitions you can see on the left. I'll post these in the chat in a minute. Progress Toronto has got one on the 24/7 warming spaces. TTC Riders has got a Stop the Cuts petition. That one is specifically around the transit cuts. They've also had a day of action today, which some of you may have taken part in, which was transit canvases. Lots more transit canvases happening. Also phone banks if you're not doing in-person activities. I'm going to put the link to some Progress Toronto phone bank, a phone bank that's coming up on Sunday, as well as a training, I think phone bank training happening on the Monday. We are working with Progress Toronto to do some leafleting. We're going to have a Labor Day of action, but we're going to figure out which day that is once we know which day is which day the special council meeting is going to happen. TTC Riders and ATU are doing a transit safety town hall on the 9th. Right now there's a press conference. I don't know if that's happening, but we're gonna make sure that we get in the media somehow. Lots of different ways that we're pushing for action. I'm gonna stop my share and I'll add in the chat a couple of items. Let me just check what I had here. Sunday, February 5th. So these are from Progress Toronto. Online day of action phone bank. Monday the 6th, canvassing at main station. Tuesday the 7th, online phone bank. Thursday the 9th, another canvass at main station. You'll notice that we are collectively, we are targeting certain key wards where we think that those councillors may be in a position to flip or in a position to pressure the mayor. So I will be posting those. And for, as I said, things are moving quickly and some things are not set in stone. We will, of course, be sharing these actions and especially things that Labor can participate in, either with your local or as an individual, through our e-blasts, our social media channels on our website. And I'll send it back to you, Andrea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'm going to, thanks, Skylar. So with the report, I have to say, like, we start off the meeting with me still saying that we have to create this urgency, and as we hear from different speakers, the urgency that's there, and now Skylar also roll out a plan. So from you look at the calendar, you can see that there's a lot of dates of action that need to get done. So just stay tuned. And we're not just asking for you, we're asking for you to mobilize around this. So we have a statement that really speaks to us, speaks to this bad board, and we gotta figure out how we're gonna stop it forward. So we are gonna put the statement up, and I'll also ask for any speakers that wish to speak on this statement. I hope you got a chance to review this statement earlier before the meeting. Am I frozen? Can everybody hear me, or did I
Yeah,
freeze?
you're not frozen. There's few hands up.
Hello?
Alim and Brandon are both their hands up. I took down the screen share so you can see them.
Seeing how
Oh.
Brandon's a president, I'm gonna let Brandon go first, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought.
Do we have the floor, Madam Chair?
Oh, okay, Brandon.
Good. Hopefully, okay, I hope the other president isn't having any tech issues there and can hear us.
I thought, yeah, I think I was frozen for a bit there. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not sure in what order. Brandon, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, I can go ahead. So Brandon Haynes, president of Local 4948, the proud Toronto Public Library workers. I just want to speak in very vocal support of this statement. It was a joint labor of love, I think, with the Labor Council staff and my brother over there with ATU 113, Marvin Alfred, the president of that local, in terms of recognizing the growth of violence and harassment in the workplaces that we both represent, and serving over many people in the city of Toronto, and over 14,000 workers, of course, delivering those services, but also recognizing the fact that I think I might be speaking to the wrong item. Am I? Or is this the right one? Is this the statement that went to the executive board?
All good.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do I come up twice, or can I combine it into this one? Okay, so I'll just talk to this one about the statement. So it's all summarized there. It really is a perfect storm in terms of the changes that happened at City Council, the smaller budget, the smaller council composition, obviously the smaller levels of engagement in terms of who can participate in the budget. And obviously now with the latest news of the mayor's budget launch and how that looks in terms of the $6 million and what happens to that, it's just a whole combination of a big change in terms of the budget. So we do need to fight back. And, even before the pandemic and before the strong mayor powers were introduced, John Tory showed that he was no supporter of workers. He was not for investment in the city. He left us behind in many ways during the pandemic. And, this is his last term of office, and it remains to be seen what he's going to do going forward and how he's going to try to fund the city. So, in many ways, we're disappointed. I'm disappointed with the budget and the process and the way it's ended up. I know that all of us share that frustration. And I think that we have to show out on February 14th. We have to really, fight the hardest that we've ever fought, just to make sure that we don't lose the city that we love and that the city gets a proper level of funding. So this whole statement has many different facts there. I encourage people to share it with the members in their local, and really just tune into the budget, get out there to join the rally that's mentioned, and make sure we pack the chambers on February 14th. And it's been a very long day, so apologies for the rant at the beginning.
Thank you. Next, Alim.
Good evening, everybody. I'm in full support of this statement. Look, we've seen this before. I want to talk to my family. For a long time, we haven't seen wins, but I'm telling you, the momentum is shifting. They tried this with the subway upload. This is a ploy attacking our public services. We talk about transit, public libraries, public healthcare. this is a strategy for them. Okay, this is very important for us. And honestly, this statement really touches. I just tell you, like, COVID showed us the austerity in our city, and more people are fleeing to public spaces, and that's not going to slow down. And more people are going to need public libraries, public health, and public transit. This statement really touches on things that really are dear to my heart, and I think dear to everyone's heart. I'm in full support of it. Just everyone sees what's going on with transit. Like Alejandro Bravo said, sorry, City Councilor Alejandro Bravo said, less service is less safe. They're reducing service levels and taking away funding and giving more funding to police. I know that the police are unionized, and I'm not for creating more jobs, but I think we really need to look at the deeper root cause here. And I don't believe policing is the answer. We're all aware. Listen, we need to keep public services in public hands. This statement really touches on what's happening in our city, and we're seeing the strong mayor powers and how influential this budget is. Really, the budget controls the narrative of what our city looks like, and we need our voices to be heard. So this is our chance to step up and get out and make sure that our voices are heard. So I'm in full support of this statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other speaker? Making sure I don't miss anyone. If there's no more speaker, then I'm gonna ask Cindy to. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone? If not, Cindy, you can put the poll up.
Yep. Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote on the statement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Madam President, back to you with 100% vote on yes.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Okay, so we're going to move on the agenda, where I will now turn this over to Vice President Jeff Irons, who will lead the recommendation and discussion on the CLC resolution. Over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Andrea. Let's note the time when the meeting went downhill. Thanks, everybody. So what we have here is the executive board reviewed 8 resolutions for the CLC. They're due Monday. They have to be turned in. They're limited to 150 words. So what I'm hoping to do here is I'm going to read through a bundle of 8 recommendations. Susan will put them up on the screen. I'm just going to read what the CLC will do. I won't go into the becauses. Starting with climate action, and we'll vote on them as a block. There can be a discussion. This has been recommended, approved, moved by the executive board, and we'll try to go through it. So it seems climate action is the first one. So the CLC will explore, it's 149 words, as you can see, on climate action. The CLC will explore all possible ways of implementing the 2021 climate action agenda, including a major conference on climate justice and just transition, and asking every affiliate to utilize environment committees at the national or regional level to help shape a labor-led agenda on climate justice. Will ensure that workers are represented at the federal level as national just transition legislation / policies are implemented. And that's our first one. The second one, I believe it's on healthcare. I got good eyes only, I can't see. There we are on healthcare. And we thanks to Kirk, the Canadian Union of Retired Canadians, for sharing their resolution, which we've tweaked here. It's 148 words. The CLC will call upon the federal government to expand funding for Canada's public healthcare system with dedicated transfers for investments addressing the staffing crisis, develop and fund a national dental care program, develop a universal national pharmacare program, Develop national standards for long-term care and home care. Will call upon the federal government to demand that jurisdictions receiving this funding comply and align with the principles in the Canada Health Act, prioritizing public facilities and services is crucial. The next one is fair taxation. And again, thanks to Kirk for sharing their resolution. We've tweaked it our way through the board. It's 139 word count. The CLC will call upon the federal government to take action on fair taxation reform, including implementing a wealth tax, a tax on windfall oil and gas profits, closing regressive tax loopholes, tax changes to financial institutions that have made strong profits during this pandemic, lowering the cap on stock options for CEOs and top executives. Will address tax havens owned by the wealthy by strengthening the powers in the CRA to investigate the rich and corporations who use them. Apologies for the subway. Next, we have, I believe it's racism in Canada, and this is up to the full 150 word count. The CLC will expand and deepen its human rights, anti-racism training with organized labor to strengthen community solidarity actions that fight back against and neutralize the far right's efforts to bring white supremacy into the mainstream. By building a broad coalition, the CLC will create a vocal opposition to blatant public racism, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism, and against far-right fringe leaders of the convoy who have manipulated COVID anxieties, concerns, and hardships to create deeply troubling divisions in society. And we're on to pensions. Again, Kirk, thank you. We've tweaked it here. We're up to 148 word count. The CLC will support legislation that will amend the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, and the Pension Standards Act of 1985, and will give pensioners first priority for unfunded liabilities in the private sector. It will support defined benefit company pension plans that would put pension liability ahead of creditors. Will demand that the federal government ensure public pensions are more viable for retired workers by increasing old age security, government income supplement, and Canada Pension Plan, just what those accurate letters mean, for all eligible, for all those eligible. Housing, 148 word count. The CLC will call on the federal government to tackle Canada's housing affordability crisis in Canada by improving access to social and affordable housing for all. It means increasing funding levels of the National Housing Strategy, addressing its many gaps, and expanding the supply of non-market housing, including a return to the cooperative housing vision that spurred affordable housing development and included the participation of unions. Municipal, 142 word count. The CLC will convene a discussion among all interested labor councils about a new deal for cities and what that might look like, including appropriate funding arrangements and powers. And moving along. Refugees in Canada, 149 words. The CLC will work with like-minded partners and different levels of government to inform the public about the humanitarian needs of refugees and work to eradicate the myths surrounding refugees. We'll call on the Canadian government to increase the number of refugees welcomed to Canada and act fairly on receiving refugees from diverse countries and nationalities. And that is the 8. Now let me just, do we have any comments, or we have to be pretty rigid here because we don't have a lot of time to rewrite these. So is there any thoughts, any speakers on this package of 8 resolutions recommended to you from your executive board? Go to the CLC convention in May. Awesome.
I don't see any hands up, Chair. I did see a couple of thumbs up, but I don't see any hands up wanting to speak.
As usual, the work of the staff and the executive board as well, the delegates. I guess we'll go on now. There's a different one. Are we going to vote on this one first, or do you want me to go into the Hamilton one?
They should be separate votes, I think. So
Yeah.
the poll
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to vote on this package of 8. I was supposed to throw it to staff, but y'all know I love the sound of my own voice. So if you agree with this package of 8 resolutions, please vote yes, no, abstain, I think it is, or accept. I'm pretty sure I know which way you're going to vote. If we could have the poll up, and then we'll roll into one that from the Hamilton Labor Council that they're asking for our recommendation. There we go. Yes, no, abstain. You kindly delegates only, please vote. I got the big thank you for my participation. Hopefully you're all getting the same right away. I need music or something. I don't like the silence. Again, staff to the rescue. Thank you.
I'm going to end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jeff, 89% said yes.
Awesome. I thank you for your confidence, and we'll take this forward to the convention and let the delegates there do the wonderful work. Now, this one, it comes from the Hamilton and District Labor Council, where we all know the president is our comrade Anthony Marco. So I'll read it out. It's regarding affiliation. This one's going to be a bit of a separate vote because it comes from Hamilton. It's a package. We didn't change it at the executive board. We're recommending it to here, and hopefully you'll support it. Shut up, Jeff, and read. The CLC will amend Article 5.4 of the Constitution by addition to read 5.4a. All affiliates must require their local unions to join federations and labor councils where such exist, or members from those locals will not be permitted to register as delegates to a CLC convention. The bolding is the additional language. 10.4a. Locals in Canada of affiliates and directly chartered locals get 1 delegate for 1,000 or fewer members and 1 additional delegate for each additional 500 members or major fraction thereof, unless such participation is not permitted under 5.4a. And then the becauses, you can read them yourselves. So as I said, we're in favor of adopting this and endorsing it from the Hamilton Labor Council. It's basically is the way we discuss it is they're looking to get more people to participate in their local labor councils, federations, because unfortunately, not all the affiliates do, and not every local from those affiliates participate. Is there any questions or discussions on this? I don't really see any. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're just adding language to what we hope will strengthen the affiliation article of 5.4. Going once, going twice. Well, good thing having me on at the end and people are getting tired. Can we go to the vote? And again, if you support this, please vote yes, no, or abstain if you're unsure about this. Remember, this is just endorsing another resolution going forward. I got the lovely thank you for my participation. And I guess we'll get the results and I'll turn it back to Andrea for the conclusion of the meeting in a proper fashion.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for your support. So I said I was going to throw it back, and here you go, Andrea. Mute.
All right.
Bye.
So before we go to the correspondent report, which that would be Comrade Abdi, I'm going to ask Susan to give a little bit of an update on the the survey that was done at the last delegates meeting. Susan, I'll pass over to you and then Abdi.
Great. You may recall at our January meeting that we did a survey of the delegates who were present to find out your interest and appetite in returning to in-person meetings. We also had a question about whether, if we are to move to them, should we combine them in a hybrid situation? And if so, what should the conditions and circumstances be related to that? The findings were that there's some interest in returning to in-person meetings, but not in the next few months. The majority of people preferred to wait until later this spring in order to go to in-person meetings. And a large majority said that they thought that to be able to protect the health of others, that we should offer a hybrid option. And also some people thought that in order for, accessibility, whether physical or transportation, that we should have a hybrid option. And the last thing we heard was that most people didn't want to require that masks be worn, but there was certainly a sense that masks should be encouraged, as long as that is still the kind of healthcare advice that we're getting, to try and keep everyone safe. So the executive board looked at these survey results at the meeting last week and have decided to hold off until later this spring to consider having in-person meetings, at which time they would likely be hybrid. So offering an in-person option for those who want to attend that way, and a virtual option for those who'd prefer to join as we are tonight. The one caveat I'd add is that, of course, we surveyed those who were present at a virtual meeting. So there may be some who haven't been attending the virtual meetings as much, who would prefer us to speed up and have the in-person meetings, but there really was a large number that thought that we should wait. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the survey results. Back over to you, Andrea.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will pass it over to Comrade Abdi for the correspondent report.
Good evening, comrades. Tonight we have 4 correspondence. The first one is a request from Maywork for a donation to this year's festival. Our usual donation is 500. The executive board recommends a donation of 500. I so move it. Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Blair. Comrade, can you put them?
So the poll is up.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And poll back to you, Brother Abdi. We have a pass with 98%.
Merci beaucoup, comrade. Our second correspondence is notice of the International Women's Day Mary's Pride Breakfast to be held at the Steelworkers Hall on Saturday, March 4th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., followed by the rally and march. Tickets are $10 each, and the proceeds are donated to local women's services. The Labor Council also sponsors the event. The executive board recommends to purchase of 10 tickets for $100. I so move it.
Second. Second.
Thank you, brother. Comrade.
The poll is up again.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote on the donation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to you, Brother Abdi. We have 100% vote for yes.
Thank you, comrade. The third correspondence is request from February 14 Organizing Committee requesting Labor Council's endorsement and financial support for the 18th annual strawberry ceremony being held on February 14th, the National Day of Action honoring missing and murdered Indigenous women. The Executive Board recommends that Labor Council endorse the event and donate $100. I so move it.
I'll second Carol Carpenter.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote on the strawberry ceremony. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And poll. Back to you, Brother Abdi. We have a 97% for yes.
Thank you. The final correspondence for tonight is request from Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare for a donation. The Executive Board recommends a donation of $100. I so move the motion for executive. Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Merci.
Comrades, 5 seconds left to vote on the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. $100. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Back to you, Brother Abdi. We have a 100% for yes.
Thank you, comrade. And that concludes the correspondence for tonight. Back to you, Madam President.
Andrea,
Sorry. Yep,
yeah.
got it. Mute myself. Okay, thank you very much, Abdi. All right, so we are going to move on this agenda, and now it's time to talk about the Enough is Enough campaign. So some of you attended the OFL Enough is Enough campaign last weekend. So could you show some hands, any of you, a show of hands of who attended the past weekend campaign or the launching of it? Is there a show of hand? Okay, great. So we are ready. We're on a roll. I hear Tyler mention and Natalie also mentioned people are ready. They're ready to take on this fight. So we also have our guest speaker here that will talk to us a little bit more about this campaign. So I will introduce the speaker. So with us, we have from the OFL to tell us more about the campaign is Yolanda Badesi, she's the Human Rights Director of the OFL, and also James Clark, Director of Campaigns and Political Action, to tell us a bit more. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to both of them. Welcome, Yolanda and James. Over to you.
Thank you so much, President Babington, and thank you to the Labour Council for all of your help in organizing, promoting, and even facilitating at Saturday's Enough is Enough Ontario launch. It's great that there's so many of you were here. You were part of the 500 participants that were there. We're now approaching 4,000 signups and 400 volunteers. It was a great day. And for those of you who weren't there, we know that you weren't there because you were busy knocking on doors and talking to people about why we say enough is enough. For those of you who missed it, though, there were three major parts to the event. The first was why we say enough is enough, and we introduced our 5 demands. And it's a spoiler alert because you'll be seeing a video soon. We had a lot of great speakers, unionized and non-unionized leaders and community groups. Our second session was about the what. So it was the why, the what, and the how of the campaign. The what is the campaign all about? First and foremost, it is the fact that everyone here in this province needs an end to this cost of living crisis. The second is that workers in Ontario need to support everyone who's already fighting for a better life and build the solidarity that we all need to win. And the last part was laying the groundwork for a major escalation of this fight. We'd heard it from Tyler, we heard it from Natalie, and this fight could be up to and including the possibility of a province-wide general strike. The third session was the how of our campaign, and that's when we got to hear from everyone. We broke everyone up into 8 regions and 8 breakout rooms, and they got to discuss how we can build the Enough is Enough campaigns in our own communities. We talked about 3 things: how the cost of living crisis affected everyone in the region, what that looks like in your area or your community, what groups or campaigns are already fighting back on these issues, and how do we as workers get in touch with them? And finally, how we can all get organized and have an Enough is Enough campaign in our own region. Who can help to build the campaign in your community or your workplace? And then we ended with next steps. And I'm going to pass that over to James after you see our fantastic Enough is Enough Ontario video.
Do you feel like everything's... You're not alone.
We're fed up of wages that can't pay the bills.
With getting gouged at the grocery store and the gas pump.
With rent and mortgage payment that no one can afford.
We're fed up with crumbling public services.
Healthcare and the brink of collapse.
Always being told to tighten our belts, while corporations and the banks make record profits.
And while our government sits on massive surpluses, but does nothing except help their developer and donor buddies.
That's why we're saying enough is enough.
Because all of us are hurt by the cost of living crisis.
Whether you work 1, 2, or 3 jobs.
Or struggle to find a job or adequate supports.
Now is the time for us to come together to fight for our future.
For real wage increases.
For bills that we can afford.
For rent control and affordable housing.
For public schools and healthcare.
Public services that take care of all of us.
And to make corporations and banks pay their fair share.
We can win these demands, but we need you to join us.
Share this video. Spread the word. Sign up today at WeSayEnough.ca.
When working people come together, we win.
We've done it before, and we can do it again.
But we need to get organized, and we need to do it now.
We're launching this campaign in every part of Ontario.
Wherever people are fighting for better life, we will show up to support them.
On the picket lines.
In the communities.
And at Queen's Park.
For far too long, working people have paid the price.
For crises we didn't create.
No more. We say enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
When we fight together, we win. Join us.
Thanks, Yolanda, for that introduction. And thank you, President Babington, and to all the delegates of the Toronto and York Region Labour Council for inviting us here tonight. And as Yolanda said, for all your amazing work helping us pull off a successful launch on Saturday. We really appreciate all your support. So as Yolanda said, this campaign has 3 goals, and it aligns with so much of what we've been talking here tonight. The first and most urgent one is that we need to build a labor-led response to the cost of living crisis. We've heard in so many interventions tonight about how the right wing, the Pierre Poilievres of the world are circling around our movements. They're trying to engage workers. They're trying to tap into the anger and the pain that people are feeling in their communities. And they're trying to exploit that to pull that into a right-wing direction and to pit us against each other. So it's really urgent that we build a labor-led, community-led response to the cost of living crisis, and it's about our vision and our solutions to solve that. No more right-wing policies. It's about putting forward a bold and ambitious agenda for progressive policies and a vision that takes care of all of us. So that's the first goal. The second goal, as Yolanda said, is that we need to build deeper solidarity campaigns with all the people who are already fighting back right now. There are strikes, popping off in all parts of the province. There are people who are getting organized. Workers are joining unions. Workers are getting involved in campaigns they've never been involved in before. So we need to make sure that when those workers move into action, that we've got their backs. And so part of the aim of this campaign is to make sure that we have real solidarity networks right across the province that can support those fights wherever they're underway. And the third goal, as we've heard, is that we want to build capacity for those really big moments that we know could be coming in the weeks or months ahead. We don't know what's going to happen before 2026, and we're not going to wait and sit on our hands until 2026. We're going to build a fight back now. And if we see another moment like we did in November, where we were on the brink of a general strike, we want to be organized and prepared to move into action and to carry that out. The prospect of a general strike is something that belongs to the labor movement. We want to contribute to that discussion. We want to facilitate it, and we want to celebrate that so many people who may not be directly connected to our struggles or who may not even be in unions are turning to the general strike as a tactic to fight back. Just go on any platform on social media. Look at the comments on so many posts. People are talking about a general strike. They may not know what's involved to get there, but the fact that people are embracing that tactic is an amazing thing. And we want to be there and part of those conversations to build people's confidence about what it would take to get to that moment. So those, broadly speaking, are what we want to achieve with this campaign. The goals are aimed at tapping in to the cost of living crisis, what people are feeling, and bringing together a whole series of demands that our movement has been fighting for many years. And I'll just really quickly say what those demands are. You can see it on the link in the chat. If you just click on the link, WeSayEnough.ca, you can go to the website right now and see the demands. So real wage increases, keep schools and healthcare public. It's another way of saying we need public services to take care of all of us. We need affordable groceries, gas, and basic goods. We need rent control and affordable housing, and we need the banks and corporations to pay, right? Make the banks and corporations pay their fair share. Or if you want to say another way, tax the rich. We know the resources are there. We have to fight for them to make sure that we can get all these demands implemented. The last thing I'll say are three really simple steps that I hope folks here tonight can be a part of. The first one is to go to the website, WeSayEnough.ca. And if you haven't signed up to be part of Enough is Enough, sign up now and be part of the thousands of people who are already joining the campaign. The second thing is share the video. Share it on any platform you're involved in. If you have any friends or family or coworkers who are interested in these issues, sit down and watch the video with them. And after you've watched it, ask them, are you ready to say enough is enough? Are you ready to join this campaign? And the last thing I'll say is to circle the date for Saturday, June 3rd. That's the date that we hope to bring together a province-wide Enough is Enough demonstration where people in towns and cities right across Ontario will stand together, bring together all our movements, shoulder to shoulder, and say enough is enough. That's the moment we're mobilizing for. And of course, we've got a lot of work to mobilize well before we get to June 3rd, but put June 3rd on your calendar. And as we're mobilizing, as we're showing up on the picket lines, at all the other demonstrations, at all the other movements we want to be a part of, we've got to keep our eyes on that prize. So thanks everybody for giving us a chance to talk about the Enough is Enough campaign. I look forward to continuing working with all of you at the Labor Council and at all the struggles that you're involved in. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, James, and thank you, Yolanda. Thanks to the OFL for the hard work in mobilizing again to action. I see some hands up. I see Nigel, and then I see Miguel. Is this question for the speaker?
Thank you. Yes, it is President Babington. Thank you. Is it okay if I speak?
Go ahead.
So President Babington, it's very encouraging to have the Ontario Federation of Labor here. I was also one of the folks who facilitated at the Enough Enough campaign. I actually had a group from Ottawa, and you could hear a lot of the things that they were talking about, President Babington, same things that we're here talking about here. You know, money, millions being given to the police when we're short EAs, when, you know, we need more increased services for the TPC, right? And so here in Toronto, there is an urgency. As a school teacher in the Toronto District School Board, we know right now that many of our children are not getting the services and needs that they need to succeed, right? It's been an unfair, unjust system. So while I'm definitely supportive of the campaign that they put in front of us, but I do believe, President Babington, that we should also look at February 25th. It's a very key day. There's a number of community groups that are organizing right now to pull. It's called the Welcome Back Doug rally, and I think it's important that that the OFL, that Toronto York Labor Council, that all of us as affiliates look at that date as one of the dates also that we could come together. The other thing that's happening on that date is Dina Ladd is also putting on, or not putting on, but the Justice for Workers also has a very important organizing spaces happening that day that I believe labor should also be paying attention to. So I do hope that before we leave, we could maybe pass, I would like to move a motion, but I'd like to hear what all the other folks think about what's this plan and how it is that we can create the urgency and connect with, the workers that need us to take immediate action and leadership. So I'd like it's a consideration that the OFL, Toronto York Labor Council, work together to support this Welcome Back Doug rally. Thanks very much, President.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Miguel.
Yes, I am. This is good idea. I hope the all labor movement stand up and support this initiative. I have only one suggestion. I don't know if you're thinking Toronto is a multilingual. Could be good idea if this advertise, we can to translate a couple languages. For example, Mandarin is one of the strongest, biggest language in Ontario, especially in Toronto. Punjabi, in other languages, maybe 5, 6, 7 languages, and it's time now we can to think how we can go beyond the English. You can see the members here right now. We have many people we speak different languages. It's time, and this is good initiative, and we can embrace them in order to support this initiative. I give you this idea, and I hope so you can consider it, you can discuss it, and we can help, and we can find people that can help us to do in different languages.
Okay. Okay, yes, so thank you, Miguel. And I'll respond back to Comrade Nigel request, just to let you know that the February 25th was endorsed by the executive board. So for sure, we have work to do. Make sure that we get the word out and help to mobilize for that day. Thank you. And I know it's a very long evening, and I thank everybody for staying. We are almost there. We have a few more exciting reports, so just bear with us. And we're on to all the reports, and so I'm going to move on to CLC report. Felicia, if you're here, I'll turn over to you.
Thanks so much, President Andrea. Well, happy Black History Month, Labor Council fam. Very good to see you all. I'm going to ask if we could please screen the showwecare.ca site, please. Skylar. Okay, so while Skylar gets that up, I'm going to get us moving. So you know that yesterday marked the start of Black History Month, and it's a time to recognize, honor, and celebrate the history and accomplishments of Black communities in Canada. And this year, if you could screen it, please, Skylar. Wonderful, thank you. And this year, our theme also ties into our current care campaign, which I did share with you all a few months back. And the theme is celebrating the long history of Black care workers in Canada. And the accompanying slogan is a legacy of care. All month, we'll be highlighting the history, contributions, and perspectives of Black care workers in Canada. And Black History Month is an important time to recognize and celebrate the contributions and achievements of the struggles of Black communities in this country. And in recognition of the vital role that Black workers have played in this nation's care systems, Canada's unions are calling for fair and decent work for care workers. From the hidden experiences of Black Nova Scotian domestic workers in the mid-20th century to young Black women domestic workers who participated in Canada's West Indian domestic scheme, to Black women who overcame significant racial discrimination to train and work as nurses, Black care workers have been integral to this country's care history. And care workers continue to do the hard work of providing care, paid and unpaid, for our families and communities. This work is often carried out by Black, racialized, immigrant, and migrant women. And we heard both Tyler and Natalie speak to that this evening. Wages and working conditions for care jobs do not reflect the true value of the work. Jobs are precarious and wages are low. And these women often work under poor, unsafe, unfair conditions with few protections. Care work is traditionally understood to be women's work, and as such, it is undervalued. And this upholds gender stereotypes, promoting ideas about women's place in society and the forms of work assigned to them. In addition to the hardship of unjust working conditions and wages, Black care workers face anti-Black racism, racial violence, and abuse on the job. Without access to equal rights and protections, these inequities persist, and care work is necessary to the continued well-being of our families and communities and the functioning of our economy. And despite the indispensable nature of this work, Canada's care systems are failing its workers and all those who need care. And the pandemic has exacerbated the existing cracks in our care systems. Black care workers helped build Canada and continue to provide all crucial care we all need and depend on. Let's show up and show we care by fighting together to secure fair and decent work for Black care workers and committing to eradicating gender, racial, and other inequities that are bound up with the undervaluing and maldistribution of care work. So you've seen that we've screened the care website, showwecare.ca, really easy. You just sign up there to add your voice and send a letter to your MP urging them to invest in repairing our public care systems and join the fight. And basically it's a template, you just put in your information and it goes to your MP. The next thing I want to share with you, good news, ILO, and we'll go to the second one, please, Skylar, Canada Labor.ca, Canada's unions are celebrating. So basically ILO C-190 was ratified on January 30th. So this is exciting news. For those of you who don't know what C-190 is, it's the first international standard of its kind that acknowledges the universal right to a world of work free from violence and harassment and establishes a clear framework for ending it. Once ratified, governments are accountable for preventing and addressing all forms of violence and harassment, including gender-based violence and harassment, and it gives unions the tools they need to make work safer for everyone. And we heard earlier this evening from Natalie who's getting abused on the job, and it's really important that this was ratified, so it's very exciting. The next thing is just a really quick one. Lobby Day is next week at CLC headquarters. They're working on things to make sure that it's a success, and that's next week on the 7th. You'll see more in social media just talking about what's happening there. In terms of some statements we'd like you to look at, you can visit canadianlabor.ca to see all of these whenever you have a moment, and that's where you'll get all of the updates on what's happening at the CLC. And the first one I want to share with you in the chat is the one that went out on January 29th on the second National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. And it's Canada's unions, urgent action needed to end Islamophobia and protect Muslim communities. I think Skylar just put that in, thank you. The next one is about the Bank of Canada's 8th consecutive rate hike, which means workers will take another hit. That was January 25th. Skylar, if you could put that one in the chat as well, please. And to end on a positive, I do want to share a statement that was also a congratulatory statement that the CLC put out for the election of Magali Picard. She is the first woman and Indigenous person to be elected president of the Fédération des Travailleurs et des Travailleuses du Québec, the FTQ. And that one will also go in the chat, I'm hoping. Skylar, please. And last but not least, we have some upcoming actions with the Ontario Nurses Association. So February 23rd, all out pickets in communities across the province. Locations and timing will be announced soon. And on March 2nd, all out shutdown protests outside of the Sheraton Centre, Toronto from 12 to 2 p.m. Bargaining will be taking place at the Sheraton, and we need every member and ally outside showing support. So I'll be there. All of you, hopefully you can be there as well, and let's show support to our nurses because they do important work and they need our support at this time. And of course, IWD is next month, so let's keep an eye out for activities, including the breakfast and brunch that was shared earlier on. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to the council's report. Okay, I think you're on after. Is this the women's report, Laura? You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, hold for a sec. Let me go through the council, LCS.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So, we heard a lot about anti-Black racism and the impact. We heard about the care workers, and I can also tell you that even doctors, Black doctors, are facing day-to-day racism in their job, from the nurses for other doctors. So this doesn't have any borders. So we are facing all everywhere in our life, no matter where. So the Labor Community Service will be inviting you to join us on February 16th. We are celebrating Black History Month, but we are also tackling a very important issue, which is the United Nations Decade of People of African Descent. So there was 10 years decade that is almost expiring next year. And the Canadian government has done nothing. The Black activists who are working on it really are asking the government just to come up and apologize. And I was told that with apology, a lot of motion can be started. So, but the Trudeau government is not coming up to apologize for all what's done on Black people here in Canada. So a woman, Hawthorne, from that team is coming and to talk about it. And we have invited all Larry from CLC, Andrea and Ahmed Gayat and Yolanda McLean from CBT to come and react to that. So this is a discussion with a national conversation with Labor. We want Labor to really get engaged in this conversation, because if we really want to end this one, we have to put all our efforts to push this forward. And I hope that, it will be virtual, that you will come and join us in that conversation. So the other point I want to raise is that the registration for the Labor Community Advocate Training Program is going on, and we hope that you will send your members to be educated, and I think will help us populate those training and for your members. Thank you.
Thank you, Faduma. Any report from Labor Education Center? Going once. Any report from Labor Education Center? Okay, so we're on to committee report. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Andrea. Good night, everyone. Good night, comrades. My name is Laura Thompson, reporting on behalf of the Women's Committee about an event that we'll be holding February 28th. It is the International Women's Day. It's a panel discussion on gender equity and leadership. We'll be, along with having Andrea speak, we will be having Asma Malik, Dali Begum, Laura Walton, and the conversation will be led by Peggy Nash. This event sort of came out of the conversations of recognizing that within our movements, we've seen strides when it comes to gender equity and gender representation in our leadership, whether that's the Canadian Labour Congress, the Ontario Federation of Labour, and the Labour Council, but also the recognition that we've seen strides, but obviously we want to continue that to go forward. And so we're really encourage folks. So the flyer has been, the lovely flyer that was designed by our committee member Emily is in the chat for you now, with the link to register. So we do encourage you to please, so it will be a hybrid event. The physical event will be at 31 Wellesley, and then the virtual event will be on Zoom. So we do encourage you to join us and to be a part of this conversation. And obviously this conversation is done in the recognition of International Women's Day, a day that is a period of reflection for a lot of us when it comes to recognizing both what we've achieved towards gender equity, but also the work that still needs to be done. That is kind of the spirit of this event, and obviously the spirit of International Women's Day, which, as mentioned earlier, is in terms of Toronto. The rally in March will be happening March 4th. So it is a great, at a time of so much political struggle, it's a great opportunity to get on the street and continue that tradition that has been in the city that's been going on for over 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other committee report? Okay. Okay, Camlin. Equity Committee.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. So we just had a couple of things that we wanted to highlight. Skylar, I'm not sure if you saw my message, but I was hoping you could do a screen share for the February Black History Month profile for.
I'll get it up now, sorry.
Thank you, that's okay. So we just wanted to highlight Ainsworth Spence, who was a co-chair for the Equity Committee previously, and he's being highlighted in the profile of Courage for the Black History Month. The Black History Month flyer, and so we just wanted to take a moment to shout him out, and it's always great to recognize members in the committee, and Ainsworth is also on the current exec board as well, so he's someone who is currently and previously has been a huge activist in the community, and we would just like to take a moment to recognize him. And then we would also like to mention that the Bromley Awards is happening June 14th. It has not been decided if it's virtual or in person yet, but we just like to put the date on the radar for everyone. Oh, there he is. Thank you, Skylar. So we'd just like to put the date on your radar, and the nomination dates will be coming out shortly, so just keep that in mind. And last but not least, iWalk is going to be happening June 24th at IBEW from 9 to 5. Registration and information to follow. So just keep those two dates on your radars for the time being. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll open for any union report. Any union report, please put your hand up.
Okay. I don't see any further hands up.
Nope.
Oh,
that's it. Yep.
I see Jeff and David Kidd.
Okay. Did you say Jeff? I am scrolling back.
That's right.
Jeff, go ahead, and then David.
Yep, just to keep it short, I just wanted to share that today is the 120th anniversary of my local IBW Local 353, the electrical workers, of being chartered for the city of Toronto. So happy birthday to us.
Okay, congratulations. Standing strong. Okay. Move over to David.
Sitting when we can, to be honest, at this hour, but thank you for the well wishes.
Okay. Thank you. Reinforcement. Go ahead, David.
So just to let you know from the Toronto Workers History Project that we are scheduling a special Black History Month event on February 14th. I'm afraid it is the same night as the City Council, but it's to honor a special elder, anti-racist Black activist in Toronto named Jack White. He had been a delegate here at Labour Council in the 60s and stood up very fervently against racism in our city in those days. He had been an iron worker. He was one of the first racialized staff at CUPE. And so at this session, it's going to be February 14th. For those attending City Council, it will be on our Facebook feed, and so you can watch it at your leisure at another time. But we're going to be joined that night by his niece, Sheila White, Black historian Kathy Grant, and also ex-CUPE National President Judy Darcy, speaking on Jack White's important contribution to our movement. Also, just to let you know, we are also doing another special event on February 28th. It is the 50th anniversary of the fight against the Marcos dictatorship in the Philippines. And as such, we are honoring that fight 50 years ago by that incredible coalition that built mobilization against the Marcos dictatorship across Canada and the United States. And so we'll have speakers from that movement on February 28th, honoring that important fight. Thank you, President Andrea, and thanks everybody, delegates, for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. I am making sure I didn't miss anyone. I think that's it. I think that's it. So I'm gonna turn over to Jennifer to close us off. But before we go, just to thank everybody for coming out and for hearing from all the speakers. And I think what we're hearing that it's time for us, and it's time to mobilize each other. So have a good night and lots of dates. Skylar roll out some dates there in terms of us fighting around the budget. And we're hearing also from Nigel, who again reminding us of dates. And yes, please start mobilizing for IWD. Let us take the street one more time. They haven't been out for the last 3 years. And again, we need to come out and support their sisters, and sisters come out and stand strong for all these issues. Thank you very much. Over to you, Jennifer.
Skylar's gonna do it because my computer's gonna die. Sorry.
All right, go ahead, Skylar.
This is to Aleem for introducing it to us.
Okay, Aleem. Okay, so